And away we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the news, have a little bit of dialogue that we will share with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And of course, if you happen to be listening somewhere else and you would like to join the live portion, please do. You can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ScrewTube, YouTube that is. And that would be at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat, although I am no longer able to cast the video there because I am not a Prime member on X and I don't want to pay for anything. I pay for enough. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. As we get ready to jump off, being joined by a single feline today. Granny Smith is sitting on the floor behind me. You can't see her, but she is there. Have some more cat news a little bit later on here. We'll get to that. Naturally, as always, I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable. And I'll go ahead and say hello to some of the people that have chosen to chime in so far. I see Helter is here, as well as D-Lo is here. Yeah, he says you're here early. That's because the countdown clock on the restream, it jumped again. So it's not, it's supposed to go on at 2, and it went on early again because it misunderstood what 2 o'clock is, I guess. So I'm like a minute ahead of myself. Cyberjack Senior is here. Donna Beaver, who wants thumbs ups, likes, and shares. Yes, please do. Dragon is here, as well as Semper Fi in New York City. New York City? Well, anyways, as I'm sure many of you are quite aware, Harris had her first official live interview, if you want to call it that. This was not live. It had the CNN live banner, little watermark. It was not live. It was pre-recorded. That's all. So they're lying to you right off before they even start. That was pre-recorded. It was rehearsed, and it was scripted. Definitely. I see Brian has joined us, as well as Eric Peter. And Semper says not New York City. Well, New York anyway, because it says Semper Fi NY. So we'll exempt you from the city status then. No Big Apple for Semper Fi. So they had their interview. They pretended that it was live. It was not evidently live. It wasn't even that long. It's surprising. The entire interview, I think it tapped out at 27 minutes, of which 18 minutes of it was dialogue, if I read that correctly. What interview? What the hell happened? Tim, he spoke twice. I don't even understand why he was sitting there. And talk about softball questions. Good Lord. And David has joined us as well. Glad you could make it today. Talk about softball questions. They didn't ask any hard questions at all. Not that she answered any. Have you seen any of this or read any of this dialogue? It's incredible. They really did not answer the questions. They didn't answer the questions. It's incredible. I'll pull up a thing. This is CNN patting themselves on the back for having done this interview at all. They call the exclusive first interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. Or Kamala, or however the hell you pronounce it. Man, I don't know. I keep hearing it all different kinds of ways. I need to hear her say it, I think. CNN, Harris explains an exclusive CNN interview why she shifted her position on key issues since her first run for president. She doesn't answer. She really didn't watch it. It's really not that long. Vice President Kamala Harris on Thursday offered her most expansive explanation to date. Well, she must not have ever really said much in her life then on why she changed some of her positions on fracking and immigration, telling CNN's Dana Bash her values haven't shifted, but that her time as vice president provided new perspective on some of the country's most pressing issues. Translation: your handlers told you you're not going to get elected unless you pretend to be willing to turn fracking and oil reserves back on, whether you're willing to leave the First Amendment alone, and whether you're willing to build a damn border wall. And so you're going to pretend to go along with that now. So in the CNN exclusive sit-down interview, Harris also said she would name a Republican to serve in her cabinet if elected. Oh, isn't that sweet? Is he going to get coffee for you? Or vodka? She described for the first time President Joe Biden's telephone call informing her he was planning to abandon his bid for a second term and his disastrous debate performance, saying she would alter Biden's policy toward arms sales to Israel. And she brushed off her rivals' questioning of her racial identity, dismissing Donald Trump's suggestion she happened to turn black. Yeah, she did not answer that question, and that's really telling. Now, she went on for like 5 minutes kissing Biden's ass. She went on and on and on about how great of a man he is and how much of a patriot he is and how much he loves America and blah, blah. It's like, bitch, be quiet, please. The one hard question, and Cyberjack Sr. has joined us. Or were you already there? Yes, you were already there, Cyberjack. You're just making fun of Kamala with that new name change there. The real question that she asked was that, can Trump has accused you, and I'm paraphrasing, okay? It's not an exact quote. I don't have it sitting in front of me. Trump made the accusation that you got black enough when you wanted votes. You know, that she switched her heritage, as it were, because before it was Indian, now it's black all of a sudden. And this is her actual response, quoted here. Same old tired playbook. Next question, please. She never answered the question. Trump has accused you of switching and pretending to be black. Same old tired playbook. Next question, please. She didn't answer that question. She really didn't answer any of them. She really did not answer any of these questions. And again, to me, that's very telling. Brian says they love America so much that they help illegal immigrants instead of us. I know. Just to give you an example, and I have this pulled up actually, it's in my phone. I'm going to read you a piece of this dialogue, okay? And this will give you a good idea of what it is that I'm talking about. Let me get this open here if I can find it. I better be able to find it. Let me see. All right. So Dana Bash says, and I'm reading, and this is quotes. How do you respond to Americans concerned with unvetted immigrants committing serious crimes in increasing numbers? Kamala Harris. That is a we have had and will continue to have, because it's a conversation that will need to continue in the future. Tim and I have discussed this at length. I'll let him respond. Tim says, I am 100% in agreement with Kamala on this issue. We want the American people to know we are united in our approach to not only this issue, but every issue. Was that question answered? I think not. I think not. And I see Tuck has joined us, as well as Raccoon. Helter says her stance lacked depth when defending these shifts, as she emphasized unchanged values without addressing the underlying reasons for the changes clearly enough. And Eric Peter said CNN literally was celebrating that she answered all the questions. But and if you watched it, you heard it. They didn't answer any questions. They really didn't. Dragon says her refusal to address Donald Trump's personal attacks was evasive, as though she's refusing to tackle tough questions. And that's not even that tough. Are you pandering by shifting from Indian to black, yes or no? Well, you know, I don't feel like I am. We may not believe that, but at least you would have answered the question. No. We say next question, please, and like a good lapdog, CNN rolls into the next question. And Tom is here. Glad you could make it. Wow, what a dance around the question. I know. They didn't answer it at all. Did not answer it at all. They didn't answer any questions. And she was challenged on the whole fracking as well. They did ask about the fracking, and she said that she didn't ever say that she did not support fracking, but she is on record as having said that she didn't support fracking. There's a video of her saying it in interviews when she was running for president the first time. It says, in the post-conversation phase of the race, Harris is seeking to address scrutiny of her record and add substance to her pitch to American voters on how she would govern if elected president. Harris has been under pressure to explain her policy positions in greater detail during a sit-down interview. Her last-minute campaign has been fueled not by detailed proposals or policy papers, but by Democrats energized by the newly competitive election. Pressed by Bash on, she was not pressed, I promise you, on fracking and decriminalizing illegal border crossings, Harris sought to explain why her position has changed. Quote, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made? Bash asked Harris. Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward? Harris said despite the shifts in position, her values had not changed. Now, wording again is key. I'm going to tell you right now, the way that this was posed, the question by Dana Bash, okay? Listen to it again. How should voters look at some of the changes that you've made? Stop. Quote, is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? Okay, that's leading. If she would have asked that question in court, the opposing attorney would have made an objection and the judge probably would have upheld it. You're leading the witness. You just handed her the answer to your question. You softballed her the answer to the question. And Semper Fi says there's a great post on X going around that says 4 more years of the Democrat Party is like crapping in your pants and changing your shirt. Wow. Oh, that's bad. Is this Harris's? Harris said, okay. Harris says, despite her shift in position, her values had not changed. Quote, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy's perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that this is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. That was the answer. That was the answer that she gave to the previous question. That's a different answer. Okay? She was asked, how should voters look at some of the changes you've made? Response, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. When? I have always believed and have worked on it that the climate crisis is real. You're talking about your beliefs on the climate crisis, which you probably don't believe a damn thing anyways. That's not what she asked you. She asked you how voters should look at some of the changes you've made, and even handed you the answer is because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information. Handed you the answer and you went to the Green New Deal. What the hell are you talking about? Shadow says, what are you trying to say? Clear as mud. Harris has much more to say than you do. And Donna says, Harris has no values. It's incredible. You know what it makes me think of is, what is that movie? Oh, God. It was a Supermarionation movie done by the people who do. And it's with the puppets. And they had an Alec Baldwin character. and he was befuddled on stage, and he goes, but global warming, and everybody in the audience started to boo. That's what it makes me sound. That's what it sounds like to me. She went in an entirely different direction and answered a completely different question than the one that she was asked. Not that she answered any questions. I didn't really hear her answering any questions directly, or Tim, which again, Tim, I think he spoke like twice. I don't even know why he was there. I don't understand why he was even there. I unless for, you know, kind of like how sometimes a singer carries a guitar just for how sometimes a singer carries a guitar and they don't play it, but it's like comfort. They've got the guitar in their hands. I know you guys hear all of that. Sorry for the distraction. That is Granny Smith over there playing with that toy fish, and she is making all kinds of noise. And Semper Fi's got it. He says, Team America, World Police. Team America, that's right. Team America is the name of the film. And Alec Baldwin's character was cornered and started talking about global warming out of nowhere because he didn't know what else to say. And John has joined us. John has joined us today. And sorry about the troll. The troll has been expunged. You shouldn't see any more comments from that person. I don't know if I have any. Anybody on this channel with a blue wrench, and I don't know if I can even set somebody up with a blue wrench through Restream. I don't think it gives you the option. No, it doesn't let you. It doesn't let you give anybody a blue wrench through Restream. Oh well. As we move along here, and this is what raw story. CNN fact checker isn't buying Kamala Harris's explanation of evolving stances on key issues. Wow, she really, even with the makeup, not look good there. I heard Mark Dice said that she's aging like milk. It's kind of mean, but again, there are a lot of rumors that she might have a drinking problem. I don't know. A lot of rumors that she might have a drinking problem. And who would ever know the truth of that? Who would ever know the truth of that? As we shift around here, what's wrong, Granny Smith? What's wrong, Granny Smith? She's making a lot of noise. So here we are. CNN fact checker isn't buying Kamala Harris's insistence that her first sit down interview as presidential nominee, that she clearly evolved her stance on fracking in 2020 after vowing to ban the practice a year prior. While in Congress, Harris supported the Green New Deal and in 2019 said there was no question that she was in favor of a fracking ban. When CNN anchor Dana Bash asked her if she still holds that position, Harris said no. Quote, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020. She said that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking. No, as vice president, she can't ban it. But she is claiming that she said, and I'll read the quote again, I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. And I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020. That's a quote from last night. I made it clear on the debate stage in 2020. I would not ban fracking. Quote. This is the fact check that, who is this again? Raw Story has dug up. And you can find this clip. Okay. 2019 clip of Harris nodding her head at a climate town hall as a constituent asked if she'd be in favor of a federal fracking ban. Quote, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. That's what she said at the time. And I see Jane has joined us. Jane, you were just in time, I guess, to see Granny playing with that fish. Is she still here? Granny left the room? Granny left the room. And John says he adopted a kitty. Shots and being fixed. Hopefully not too mad at me. Hopefully not. Male or female? If it's female, it's going to take longer. And Sean has joined us. Glad you could make it today. So she's on record, on camera, at some conference, literally saying in 2019, when she was running for president for the 2020 election, that she is in favor of banning fracking. Last night she says that she never said that, but they've got her on video. They've got her on video. So, I mean, more deception. But I guess we're not supposed to know that. I guess we're not supposed to know that, or we're supposed to just suck it up. John says male. Yeah, neutering on a male is pretty simple. Pretty simple. With a female, it can be complicated. When they spay a female, that could be complicated. When they did it to Dusty, she had to wear a cone for like 12 days to keep her from trying to touch the wound. And H12 has joined us as well. Glad you could make it today. This is something that we were asked about. I was asked about. Came up yesterday in discussion. And Fluke Man says, makes me want to buy Granny a real fish. Maybe somebody will donate a fish. Yeah, she loves that toy fish. She really does love that toy fish. It's nuts. She won't let anybody else play with it. This came up about the DNC and about the Planned Parenthood van that was down there. And they asked, the question was posed, and I want to say it was Puck, and I don't know if Puck's in here today. How much business did that van do doing abortions and vasectomies? Which they didn't technically do abortions. They gave away medication that would induce one. Okay? They didn't perform any that I understand. And Fluke Man says neutering animals is also sad. It affects their growth. Yeah, I don't really like the practice at all. It's just it's a necessary evil, unfortunately, under the circumstances. It's a necessary evil with a lot of the animals. And it's the unfortunate aspect of it is that it's a necessary evil because of how people are in the first place, that they can't manage the animals properly. I have to do it because of how many I've got, because so many people have dumped animals out here. I was not able, anyways, to find out any specifics. I did look for information about their mobile van and really couldn't find much. Really couldn't find much about whether or not they were busy at all, or how busy they were, how many people were visiting the van. But, you know, looking at some articles on the subject, and this is from Real Clear Policy. This is their article. So it says DNC abortion fanaticism is how they're calling this. Oh, and Granny is back. Hi, Granny. It says, if there was any remaining doubt as to where the Democratic Party stands on the issue of abortion, events at its national convention in Chicago put those to rest. Democrats shouted their radical support for abortion from the rooftops. They assured the American people, including their own party's rank and file, that ending the lives of innocent unborn children and wounding their mothers isn't just a policy priority, it's a cause to be celebrated. Obviously, this is a very one-sided article. I would assume the person who wrote this is against the practice. The Democratic Party's shameful promotion of elective abortion at any stage also reflects the Harris-Walz campaign's heartless extremism on the issue. Reasonable voters of all persuasions must stand up for basic human decency and justice and reject a Harris-Walz presidency at the ballot box this fall. Now, fair enough that it is very odd that this is the number one issue that they really want to talk about. Everything else they kind of glaze over, but this is really their jumping off point, is talking about what they call reproductive rights, even though this is not reproduction. This is the opposite of reproduction, but like most things that are tied into activism or government, their phrasing is often an oxymoron. Often an oxymoron. Goes on to say at the DNC, far-left Democrats push for abortion range from grotesque to bizarre. Blocks away from the convention proceedings, abortion business Planned Parenthood partnered with a local hot dog company to offer attendees free on-the-go vasectomies, medicated abortions, and abortifacient. I'm not familiar with that term. Abortifacient drugs advertised as, quote, emergency contraception at their mobile clinic bus. 8 unborn children that we know of lost their lives there following these cruel procedures. Mothers were sent on their way with a complimentary hot dog, making mockery of their personal loss. Nearby pro-abortion activists dressed in abortion pill costumes and marched in a parade-like fashion. I saw that. That's the only number I've seen. It says that 8 people at the mobile bus, 8 unborn children that we know of lost their lives. Hopefully that's it. Hopefully that's it, because I have not seen numbers anywhere. It goes on to say, in fact, only 10% of Americans support Democrat no-limits positions on abortions, but Harris and Walz and party leadership still refuse to name a single reasonable protection for the unborn that they would support. But we all know the story. But this is as close as I could find. This is as close as I could find to any kind of information about what happened with that van. I did not know they were giving away free hot dogs if you visited the van. That's weird. That is very weird. John says, my little buddy, talking about the cat, was dumped at the farm. He's a good guy. I'm going to help him out. That's good, John. And Chillin' Dave has joined us. And there we go again. There is Granny Smith acting up with her fish. And that fish, of course, was courtesy of Jane. Oh, she ran off again. She's been running in and out of the room. Courtesy of Jane. She loves that fish. Dragon says, whoever wrote this article lacked objectivity and was making moral judgments rather than sticking to factual reporting. Yeah, and I pointed that out. I said this is obviously a very one-sided article written by someone who's dead set against it. And Alex wants to know if organic food is actually organic. You better hope so. But there's always the possibility for cross-contamination. Cross-contamination if your field happens to be adjacent or nearby to another field that is not. There is the possibility for cross-contamination and the food not being entirely organic. As we move around here, going to move to a Bazinga article. Is that who wrote this? Benzinga. And I think I saw this ad, and that's why I wanted to talk about this. If Restream puts it up, let's go, Restream. Here we are. New ad claims Harris can tackle inflation and housing by building 3 million homes. We're going to build 3 million homes. Who's going to pay for that? Asking for a friend. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to fund building 3 million homes? Where are those homes going to be built? Where's the land going to be located? How are you going to allocate who's going to go into those homes and who's going to fund it? Because you know the government doesn't have any money. This is the thing that needs to be understood. The government allocates funds through taxes. The money technically isn't theirs, even though they spend it like it is. They're going to essentially, her plan, build 3 million homes with your money. And do what with it? And the warden has joined us. Glad you could make it today. It says Vice President Kamala Harris is making waves with a bold new plan to tackle two of the nation's most pressing issues, inflation and the housing crisis. In a recently released minute-long ad, Harris reveals her ambitious plan to build 3 million new homes over 4 years, a strategy she says could curb the rising costs while lightening the financial burden of millions of Americans. The ad, running now in key swing states like Arizona and Nevada, draws heavily from Harris's life. She shares the story of growing up in rental housing while her mother saved for a decade to purchase a home. It's a personal story aimed to resonate with voters feeling the pain of rising housing costs. Sweetheart, most people rental, okay? Most people. She saved for 10 years and bought a house. That's commendable if it's true. If that story's even true and you didn't just bullshit your way through it. And that's how it's supposed to work, by the way. Your mother, if that's true, did the right thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Making it easier won't make anyone appreciate it and won't help anyone in the long run. It goes on to say, Vice President Harris knows the struggle Americans are facing today, and that's a quote from Dan Canahan, Battleground State's director for the Harris campaign. Her plan is about more than building houses. It's about ending the housing shortage and the corporate landlords and Wall Street banks who are price gouging rents. They're not pricing rents. We talked about this at length yesterday. Part of the reason why rent is as high as it is because of the taxes on the land and property. And it's been a long time, but when I used to work doing maintenance when I was younger in Boston, and I worked with landlords, some of these guys, they were barely breaking even every month. Owning multiple apartment buildings and complexes, barely breaking even because of maintenance expenses and taxes. It's not price gouging. It's not price gouging. And most of the tenants, they wreck these places. And the more low income it is, the greater the chances are that the property is going to get destroyed. That's why a lot of times housing projects end up getting abandoned by landlords and they just let whatever happens to it happen until the city comes in and forecloses the property and usually ends up demolishing them. So I catch up a couple of comments here. Fluke Man says, can't help think people don't see there's anything wrong with neutering, abortions, transing children are the same people. Obviously, I could be wrong. It's just how I feel. Take America Back is here. He says he's taking a break from mowing the lawn. Helter said some people I've spoken with said the first step to solving the house inflation rates is for people to become tradesmen and build their own homes. Well, you used to be able to do that. You know, Sears used to sell a kit. A truck would come and drop it all off, and it was prefab, and you put up the bones and ran the wiring and did everything yourself. Look for the old house kit ads from Sears. They're out. You can find them on the internet. The warden says the only thing she's ambitious about is, oh wow, I don't know if I should read that, warden. You're going to get me in trouble. You're going to get me in trouble. I say too much as it is. You want to solve the housing crisis? How about you get rid of all the illegal aliens? Then there'll be plenty of space for everybody. Dragon says housing costs are influenced by multiple factors, including interest rates and broader economic conditions that Harris's plan does not directly address. And Take America says half or more houses for sale in Florida than the previous year, and property tax doubling for some people, and interest rates at 7%. And when you move, your property tax bill goes up, and it's rough out there. Yes. And we experienced enough of that when we were living in Illinois. The property taxes in Illinois are insane. They don't make sense. They don't make any damn sense. And of course, if you can't pay your taxes, they seize your house. Alex says grocery stores usually have a 1% margin, but they are greedy and price gouging. Do you think they're price gouging? Allegedly, he goes on to say, okay. Yeah, restaurants too. I remember, I read it somewhere because a lot of restaurants end up closing up or shutting down operations in certain places. Some of them only make between 2.5 to 5% when all is said and done. When you get rid of the cost of operations, the waste level of waste, and everything else, utilities, employees, um, services, and everything else, it's that sometimes 2.5, maybe 5% at the top. Take America says also home insurance is going up, or people getting dropped or forced to get flood insurance in non-flood zones. Yeah, and he reminds us you will own nothing. I'll be fine owning nothing if you leave me the hell alone. That's the thing. You want us to own nothing, and you want to be our overlord at the same time. You can be happy and not be wealthy and not have a lot of money to throw around. You can be happy, but not if somebody's all up in your business 24/7, like you're the guy from 1984. Fluke Man says, do you think it's a good idea to limit the number of residential properties owned by businesses and individuals to help affordable housing? I'm not sure. I do know that part of the problem with all of this stems from, and I forget the name of the program, and maybe somebody knows better than I do because I forget. Bill Clinton signed into law the restriction, or removed the restriction that kept banks from being national. Banks operated on a regional basis for ever in the United States, all the way until Bill Clinton took office. And the reason that banks were kept regional was to prevent a bank collapse from affecting the entire country. And he signed it off, and they said, oh, well, it'll be great because then if you move, you can find your bank in another state instead of having to shift all of your assets and shut down a bank account in another state. And oh, yeah, that's a great idea. It was a horrible idea. That's what led to the housing market crash. That caused interest rates to go up. That's what caused banks to stop paying interest on your deposits. You remember back in the day when you could put your money in the bank and you'd earn 5, 6, 7% interest? You don't earn interest anymore now unless you get a money market account, right? But that's what drove all that up. That's what drove up the insurance rates. That's what drove up the housing loan rates. And then it collapsed because it was a bubble that got too big. So I don't know. And Damien says, facts, if I get to be off the grid, then I'm cool owning nothing, farming and practice till forever. Yeah, most people just want to be left the hell alone. That's all they want. We don't need a government overlord breathing down our neck. And that's why I always think of the guy, I forget his name, the guy from 1984. And he's doing his morning exercises in front of the TV, and he got winded and stopped. And then the instructor on the TV stopped and said, who is it? Number what? You. Are you all right? Do we need to send someone around? And he's like, no, I'm okay. I'm just not feeling well today. Or whatever he said, because the TV was watching him and they told her and she told him. Crazy. We don't need people babysitting us all the time. I don't want that. But yeah, I mean, we could be, I think most people, we don't need the damn Kardashians. I wouldn't even want all that. I'm fine with my wife and my little house with my cats. Leave me the hell alone. Stop telling me what to do. Brian says it annoys me when wealthy people brag about their status and houses and cars. It's a bunch of materialism and Hollywood crap. But then they want to act all socialist and tell you what to do. Stop leaving a carbon trail, Brian. How dare you, sir? Let me get in my private jet. This wouldn't work. And then where's the money? Where's the money going to come from? Who's going to fund it? Who's going to pay for it? Well, they're not going to pay for it. Harris isn't going to come out of pocket for a damn thing. Your tax money is going to fund all that until there isn't any more tax money, until there are no more funds, until there are no more options. No more options, no more money, nothing left to do. And then you end up with a collapsed economy. Remember, step 8, we talked about that yesterday. And then step 9 is just anarchy, total social discord, which forces the government to lean heavily on the population to control them. Flukeman says hobos own their own lives. There aren't very many of them anymore. That used to be a big thing. You know, riding the trains, working for a few days, a week, a month in a certain town. It's what the show Route 66 was based on. If you ever saw the show Route 66, the show no longer exists. But neither does that concept, because you, for the most part, you can't just go and pick up a job somewhere. I used to do it all the time when I was a kid. That's why I had so many jobs when I was young, when I was a teenager. I just walk in someplace and say, "Hey, you looking for help?" And it's like, "Okay, well, who are you? What do you know anything about this?" I got a bunch of jobs that way. I walked into International House of Pancakes that way and ended up busting tables for a few months. I walked into a flower shop, and then before school in the morning, ended up spending a couple of hours every day cutting the thorns off of long stem roses for a few months. You know, you could do that. Walk into the Boston Globe satellite office. "Hey, you need a paper boy?" And next thing you know, I'm delivering newspapers in my neighborhood for like a year and a half, 2 years. You know, you can't do any of that anymore. You can't do that anymore. Sometimes you got to check, sometimes you got to cash. They don't allow that anymore because they want to make sure that they can tax you. And that's what John leads to there. He says they will pay via extortion, which of course is tax money, because it's easy to spend someone else's money when you're a lawmaker. Jane says, "Okay, can get funds from vape shops or gambling casinos or lottery, so build homes." Yeah, that's why a lot of states have been legalizing marijuana, because they were like, okay, we can tax it. Once upon a time, they used to call that a sin tax. Tax on liquor, tax on cigarettes was a sin tax. That's why prohibition was lifted. If you really go and look at the numbers, prohibition was working. It was working. America was becoming dry. Yeah, you had some illegal activity, but for the most part, it was functional until they sat down and looked at it and said, well, shoot, we could really use this tax money. Let's make it legal again. And we'll just tax the piss out of it. People will pay it. And they did, and they do. And so marijuana is becoming legal for those reasons. And other drugs may at some point as well. Alex says, who is even physically going to build these homes? Somebody who got a like behind the doors secret wink wink nudge nudge handshake with a certain congressman. We'll make sure your campaign gets this, and you make sure we get that sweet Kamala Harris house building contract, my brother. Oh man, Jane says, "Have you heard many Chinese men only immigrate here to look for wives? They do the walk through Darina Gap after getting off the ship. Supposedly over 15,000 Chinese men only came this year." I have not heard that. I haven't heard they were coming here looking for brides. But yeah, probably if that's true, you know, it's a good way to get a green card. Green Building Elements article. So we were kind of on the subject a little bit here because we were talking about tax money. Greatest theft of taxpayer money in history. Congressman grills the DOI official on C virus relief fund. There it is. In a recent House Oversight Committee hearing, Representative Gary Palmer from Alabama confronted Mark Lee Greenblatt, Inspector General of the U.S. Department of the Interior, which is the DOI, regarding the massive fraud associated with C virus relief funds. The discussion centered on what Palmer termed as the greatest theft of taxpayer money in history. The exchange highlighted the ongoing efforts to recover misused funds and the challenges of preventing such fraud in the future. The problem with recovering misappropriated funds through something as widespread, and you know what I mean by the C virus, the last pandemic, is the amount of money that will be spent in the attempt to recover that money doesn't justify the money that you'll get back. That's the problem. So back to the article. During the hearing, Palmer emphasized the unprecedented scale of the fraud linked to C virus relief efforts. He pointed out that the relief programs designed to provide rapid financial assistance during the pandemic also opened the door to widespread misuse of funds. Greenblatt acknowledged this issue, confirming that many investigations are still ongoing and some have already begun yielding results. However, the sheer magnitude of the fraud raises significant concerns about the effectiveness of current oversight mechanisms. And what are we doing here? Okay, sorry, the page got stuck. Palmer and Greenblatt both agreed that while recovering stolen funds is crucial, prevention is even more important. Palmer noted that a reactive approach, chasing down funds after they have been misappropriated, is far less effective than preventing the fraud in the first place. Greenblatt supported this view, emphasizing the need for a robust data hub that could help identify and block fraudulent payments before they occur. This proactive strategy, he argued, could have saved billions of dollars during the pandemic. You know, the one thing, though, how many stories have we read in the last few months where the person that was misappropriating C virus pandemic funds was themselves a politician? How many stories have we read like that, where it was a politician in this state and that state that was connected to some charity, and they were basically writing themselves checks with that money? Do you really expect me to believe that if you did have a system in place for checks and balances prior to the distribution of this type of funding, that the same level of scrutiny would apply to people that are in local, county, city, state, and federal political positions it would to your average citizen? Tuck says hordes of cheap, highly untrained guest workers will attempt to build those new houses. And they're so cheaply built now. Modern houses, they're built so flimsily, builder-grade garbage. Helter says they know they misused the taxpayer money on such foolish crap, and now they're trying everything to justify their actions. No kidding. And Damien said, you said there are good women out there. However, is it possible to find a woman in her 20s who is in shape and cute but would rather shoot bows than be on a yacht with Drake? It's possible. It's possible. I know it's not easy, Damien. I know it's not easy. Lord knows it took me a long time. How many failed relationships have I had? Don't even get me started. It makes me think of Supercar. Anyone here from the UK? I think Fluke Man is, right? Supercar. And the professor used to say, now who's a fool? Yeah, I said that every time I had a failed relationship. I've had some doozies, although this is the first time I've ever actually been married. And I like it because she's good. She's a good person. She's a really good person, good woman, good wife. So they're out there. But, man, it is hard, Damien. It is hard. That's the truth. That's the truth. It's going to take some work. Fluke Man says, same thing when politicians said women had the same right as men in everything at the workplace, just so they can tax the other 50% of the population. Women have the same rights, but not to tax them. And let me see. Brian says, my house was built in 1968 or 1969. Not sure if that's old. It is old, but that's good, Brian. While we're on the subject here really quickly, okay? And I'll go down that rabbit hole for a moment. Modern builder grade wood is new growth wood. So you go to any hardware store, okay? You go to Home Depot, you go to Lowe's, whatever, and you look at those boards, and you turn the board on its side, and you look at the edge, and you can count the rings. There aren't very many, 4, 5, 6, 7 rings in there, because that's new growth wood. It's damp, it's weak, and termites love it. And carpenter ants love that wood because they can tear it apart easy. Okay? You open up the walls in an older house, a house that was built before, say, 1990. So 80s and back. And the wood is dark. It's not light colored. Like, let me show you the desk here really quick. Let's see, I'm all over the place now. This color, this is, actually a metal top, but it looks like modern wood, like new growth wood. Okay, this color wood, that's builder grade. It's not good, but this is what they build everything out of, and this is what you're going to find when you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, or anywhere else, because that's all that's available. Old growth wood you find in older homes. So if you tear out the wall and you look at those beams, they're dark. The wood is dark. And if you look on the edge, you'll count 20, 30 rings deep, not 5 or 6. Termites don't like that. Carpenter ants don't like that. It's harder. It's sturdier. It's better grade. But you don't have that anymore. Michael says they're 66 years old, starting a job at McDonald's part-time to help with their Social Security income. They worked 44 years for $765 a month in Social Security. I empathize. I do understand, Michael, and that stinks. And you're going to get frustrated because you're not going to see much work ethic with the people that you're working with. If you catch my drift. As we move down here, and Michael says, okay, that's a little side conversation there. I don't want to interfere with too many side conversations if I can help it. But yeah, big surprise there, right? Anyways, a little information for you. So an older home, pre-1990, with good bones, especially if you can get it rebuilt or you can work on it yourself, as opposed to a brand new house, the older house is a better option. If it's in good shape, or if it's plausible for you to work on the home, buy it as a project. This was a project house. The one that we're living in, and we've slowly worked on it. Replaced, did the floors, I rebuilt the basement. We did a lot of work in here, but it's a more solid house than one that's brand new. And Damien says the strong wood nowadays homes are made of plywood, drywall, and cardboard. Yeah, and they do use a compressed form of cardboard, and you've got to watch out for that with siding also. Some older homes have that too, though. They've got that compressed cardboard siding. And stuff's garbage. If you can afford it, hardy board is a good option for siding because it's fireproof. You can't burn it. You can't burn the stuff. And I've tested that by putting it in the fireplace while I've had the fire going for hours. And it'll start to get brittle, but it won't burn through, which is a really good sign. The stuff does work. That stuff does work. One more here on tax money, just to make everybody mad. Why not? New York Post article. How the migrant crisis drained $150 billion from taxpayers in a single year. And it's not the migrant crisis, folks. It's the migrant industrial complex. Illegal immigrants equals migrant industrial complex. I got to put that on the t-shirt. So here we go. The migrant crisis is more costly than Americans realize. Oh, I think we know. Last year, U.S. taxpayers shelled out $150 billion in government services and support to help the 20 million illegal migrants in the country, according to a study from the Federation for American Immigration and Reform, the FAIR organization. Oh, that's a cute acronym. I love that one. Federation for American Immigration Reform. They're fair. And most of the cost is being borne by state and local government. No kidding. In Massachusetts, Republican leaders say there's a $1 billion hole in the state coffers, and they're accusing the Democrat-controlled government of quietly siphoning off tax dollars to deal with the migrant crisis. On Tuesday, the state's Republican Party filed a Freedom of Information Act request demanding Governor Maura Healey release Massachusetts' full migrant budget and alleging that the true cost has been hidden from the public. Of course it has. We know this. The Healey-Driscoll administration has shrouded nearly $1 billion spent secretly leaving Massachusetts residents in the dark. They have withheld critical information on 600 incidents involving the police, fire, and EMT, blocking journalists at every turn, and the administration has obstructed the flow of information to the public. FAIR estimates in 2013 alone the cost in state services to account for illegal immigrants and their children in the Bay State, of course that is Massachusetts, was closer to $3 billion. In New York, the comptroller estimated the migrant crisis will cost taxpayers $4.3 billion through the rest of 2025, and New York City taxpayers $3 billion in fiscal year 2024 alone. According to FAIR's estimates, the estimated 1.45 million illegal migrants and children in the state already cost the taxpayers nearly $10 billion in 2023. Big surprise. Big surprise. Brian says, I wonder if exterminators are shaking their heads when they realize this. Oh, I'm sure a professional service would know the difference. And I'm sure they love it too, because termites and carpenter ants will chew the hell out of that new wood. Tuck says, I had an exterior door that had compressed cardboard in it. It literally tore in two in one day. Yeah, those new interior doors, it's a cardboard lattice with two pieces of sheeted wood on the outside of the frame. Those interior doors, yeah, you could slam your hand clean through those. Even the steel doors, unless you buy an office grade steel doors have a foam core. I don't know if you knew that. They have a foam core. Fluke Man says the wood they use now are from faster growing trees, and the tiny planet has too many people. Half are probably criminal, jobless, and only take benefits, and many other reasons. And Michael says he's going to be working with kids with cell phones in hand at all times at McDonald's, probably. However, I still have an interview with Walmart coming, which would be better. Don't expect much more from Walmart. There'll be probably a slower pace, but yeah, there's no work ethic there anymore either. But Michael, you do what you need to do. It's cool. I'm not picking on you at all. But yeah, big surprise. $150 billion it's cost us in the last year for the so-called migrant crisis. Again, I call it the migrant industrial complex because a lot of money sure is getting dumped into it. And I'm willing to bet it's more than $150 billion in taxpayer dollars that we've lost. I am willing to bet that it's been a lot more than that it's cost us in the last year. I can only imagine. And you'll probably never get the truth of it. You'll probably never get to the bottom of it. Who's going to tell you the truth? The government? Ha! They still won't tell you who killed Kennedy. And there's not even enough people left around anymore that would care all that much. Anyway, I'll go ahead and get ready to wrap up. There's Granny Smith again. She's asleep now. Fell asleep playing with her fish. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com. So I will say thank you to everybody who was able to join us here today. I don't even know if I'm on the right time because the time changed again. Suddenly there's 2 minutes missing from Restream. Restream's been screwing that up a lot lately, the last few days especially. But again, I will say thank you to everybody who was able to join us here today. As always, I hope you got something out of the conversation, minus the troll who tried to jump in earlier. But, you know, it happens. It happens. So I will catch you again.